Hey, welcome back to another episode of your favourite podcast, The Vault of Cult. I'm Chris, your host, with...
Mark, you alright, guys? Are you alright?
I'm alright, yeah. Well, I thought I was waiting until you asked me, to be fair.
Oh, well, I thought you were going to jump in and just tell the listeners.
Well, yeah, no, I'm fine. Thanks for joining us again, guys. You know, we've not said it for a little while, but appreciate the support. We've got...
Oh, always, yeah.
All our listeners in the USA, hello.
In America?
In America, all over. We're slowly building in America.
Yeah, we are very much the international podcast.
100%, yeah. You know, and our listeners in India and Egypt.
All over the world.
All over the world. Yeah, we're international podcasters officially.
Yeah. So, you know, if ever you want to interact, please interact. Yeah. Wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, you send us an email. We're thevaultofcult@gmail.com, and you know, obviously we're on these social medias, Instagrams.
Various ones.
Yeah, just search for @thevaultofcult, and there we are.
Yeah, and please interact with us. Please tell us something.
Yeah, get in touch. You know, let's interact.
Yeah,
we'd like to hear from you guys because you're clearly listening.
Yeah, you're listening, but you're not saying you're not saying bugger all.
Yeah, give us feedback. You know, it's always appreciated. So, Mark, this week's episode,
it is The Great Mouse Detective,
aka
Basil, the Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah,
from 1986.
Walt Disney production.
Walt Disney.
So, guys, yeah, thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoy the show, and off we go.
Yeah.
So, Mark, the Great Mouse Detective, aka Basil, the Great Mouse Detective.
Well, that's the thing. We need to sort the name out first of all. It was released first as the Great Mouse Detective.
It was.
Basil was not.
No, Basil
was not named as a titular.
Yeah.
But when it was re-released, it was Basil, the Great Mouse Detective. And do you know why? Because Michael Eisner, the head of Disney at the time, said that Basil sounded too English as a name. And you're like, what? Something's set in England and there's fucking English names in it?
It actually says at the beginning of the film, London 1897!
And you're like, why would that be, Michael? Oh, and someone from the Disney company, wrote a load of, pretend names for all previous Disney things, but not naming anyone. So they renamed the Jungle Book Boy in Jungle with Big Cat and Bear, and you know, just to shade him, and then sent him into jeopardy, and it were a series of questions in jeopardy at the time. Yeah,
interesting.
Anyway, getting ahead of myself. Yeah, it were released in the United States, North America, on July the 2nd, 1986. And it was released in Europe over November and December that year.
Okay.
Over November and December. It released not until 1990 in Asia and rest of the world.
Well, again, not an unusual thing at the time.
Yeah,
delayed releases around the world.
We've gotten very used to them being relatively near to each other, but do remember back in the 80s and 90s, that was not necessarily the case.
Video was still relatively new.
Yeah, could wait years. Yeah. Very easily.
Yeah.
Like Australia, they probably got it last week, something like
Just come out.
Yeah, just come out brand new. So if we've listeners in Australia, do you like it? It's good.
How current are we?
Yeah, it is a very, very hasty 74 minutes long.
Yeah, quick.
It's very quick, which is what, like an hour and 20 minutes? An hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, so really quick.
Yeah.
Is this film. So box office was a bit of a mystery, I have to say.
Okay.
It was a bit difficult. Its actual budget was $14 million.
I thought that was a bit pricey.
No, well, this film was originally supposed to be like a big sort of epic, you know, like a big Disney epic with a budget of about 20 million.
Oh, okay.
26 million. And Michael Eisner literally came in. I'll get on to all but why. And he literally came in and said, half it.
Wow.
Cut it in half. So that probably does explain why it's so short. I mean, that's short for even an animated film of the time.
Yeah, because 80 minutes at least, really.
Yeah,
so it's 5 minutes, that's a lot of... You could get a lot of plot in there.
Yeah.
Which I'll come on to, because I do think it's missing a couple of scenes.
We'll come on to it. We will come on to it. But yeah, so budget. it made worldwide 38.7 million.
Yeah.
And with its re-release, because it was re-released relatively quickly in 92, overall it made 50 million. With everything, so it's a decent,
profitable film, really, compared to
tidy little profitable film, and that is probably one of the key reasons why I want to talk about it. I will come on to why, but you know, this is a tidy little profitable film for Disney, and boy, did they need it at that time. They needed the cash. So. Why don't you give our dear listeners who made it?
Well, the plot. Well, let's just start with the plot, really. Quick synopsis: Basil, the rodent Sherlock Holmes, basically investigates the kidnapping of a toy maker, uncovering a link to his arch enemy, Rattigan.
Professor Rattigan.
He is, Professor Rattigan. So anyway, Rattigan's plan is to kind of overthrow the Queen.
Yeah. By making an animatronic of her, and the animatronic will make him basically ruler of mousy England.
It lasts about 2 minutes before it just fucking explodes. It's like, can't handle it.
But so choppy little. It's like a little mystery film, which you'd imagine is a mouse Sherlock Holmes.
It has kind of for me. I saw links of film noir almost.
Yeah, that was specifically in the notes that were pitched to the then CEO of Disney. Again,
here we go.
Ron Miller, who it was originally pitched to, it was pitched as an animalistic Sherlock Holmes and film noir.
And you can tell it is very loyal to like a Sherlock Holmes story, isn't it?
I mean, the mouse literally, this were very in with Disney. Disney loved this with like the Rescuers at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Of making the little mousy world that exists sort of underneath the real world. And literally, Basil...
Coexisting.
Basil lives underneath Sherlock Holmes' house.
Yeah, he does.
And so he's...
And he makes that explicit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a mouse Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, literally.
Like, you even see Sherlock Holmes...
You do? You hear a conversation and you see his shadow at the...
Yeah.
Like, at the beginning and at the very end of the film.
So... He is literally just a mouse Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, it is, that's what it is.
If you're going into this expecting a Sherlock Holmesian kind of adventure, that's exactly what it is.
Do you think maybe it was like a rights thing that they didn't actually call it Sherlock?
No, it's based on a book, is this?
Yes, that's
Basil,
The Great Mouse Detective.
The Great Mouse Detective.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, no. Although they called him Basil because of the guy who played...
he actually does the voice. He played Sherlock Holmes.
So they called him Basil because the actor who does the brief cameo of Sherlock Holmes is a guy called Basil Rathbone.
Yeah.
So they called him Basil for that exact reason.
Because Basil Rathbone was in the
book, it's just Sherlock Holmes,
right?
But a mouse.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
it's just a mouse.
Yeah.
But they liked this idea of the tiny little mouse world existing underneath the real world, so they thought, oh well, why don't we call him something different? But he lives under Sherlock's house.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
We're alluding, but we're getting away with it.
And I kind of like that. I've always liked the little mousy world and they use things that to us are just like a thimble or something.
It's a boat.
Yeah, stuff like that, and I'm like, hey, it's quite clever, really. For a kids' film, it's quite. Neat.
Yeah. Right, so let's get on to cast and crew and whatnot. Right, so there was literally a handful of directors on this film.
Four, I believe.
There was more than that, to be fair. Oh. So I'll just quickly say who the gentlemen were. So John Musker, Ron Clements, Dave Mickner, and Bernard Mattinson. Right, so literally these guys at that time, this guy, John Musker, he went on and just his filmography includes Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, Treasure Planet, just to name literally a few. But all these guys were involved with
these are the
Disney's biggest hits.
These are the reasons that I wanted to talk about these films. This film in particular.
It's the writers, mate. The writers. So again, there's a massive list of writers. So a guy called Pete Young. He's like literally his filmography is ridiculous. Matthew O'Callaghan, and then a guy called Melvin Shaw. Now Melvin Shaw again, he's Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, and apparently he won an award about 20 years ago, naming him an official Disney legend.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's like I'm presuming that's a Disney Disney give that
Disney,
award out to employees.
Presumably, well, yeah, I can't imagine they'd get Academy. It'd be like
Disney legend.
Disney legend,
like its own category. Yeah, no, not happening.
But
and it was produced obviously by Walt Disney Pictures, and the music was by a composer called Harry Mancini, really famous composer. Santa Claus the movie, just for one. Pink Panther films.
Yeah.
And Breakfast at Tiffany's, which is interesting. But yeah, he's a really he died a while ago, but he's a really famous composer. So cast Basil is played by a guy called Barringham, who was in a few British things: Doctor Who and the Daleks, Steptoe's Son, Professor Rattigan. Now, really interesting character.
Is to be played by
Vincent Price.
He's your big name.
Big name
in this.
Wait,
big
like,
name.
Everyone's like, who's that? And he's like, Vincent Price.
Vincent Price. Well, for one thing, he were in nearly everything in his dog at the time. Anyway, and well, not at the time, earlier on. From like
it was
the
like
50s,
an American Christopher Lee, almost.
Yeah, and he could do a fabulous English accent as well. So it was as demonstrated in this film.
Just one thing I do want to say is, I think
the scenery and he's loving life.
But I don't think if I went into it not knowing that was him, I wouldn't know, because he doesn't sound like him.
He looks like him.
Yeah, they did design it on him. But I think his voice that he puts on, it's very interesting.
It's very ludicrously English.
So David Dawson plays Violet Bettin. No, other way around. David Dawson is is like basically
he's Dr. Watson.
Dr. Watson, basically. And Val Bettin, he voiced some characters in the Aladdin sequels, straight to video, Returning Jafar and all that in the 90s. Susan Politesque, she's Olivia, the little girl.
Come on to her.
Fidget, the bat thing, is voiced by Candy Candido. Also did voices in Sleeping Beauty and Robin Hood, which we're a fan of. We're a fan of Robin Hood.
I've got
and Robin that version as well.
Robin Hood comes to it. I love that Robin Hood. Peter Ustinov as Prince John. We've got a big soft spot for Peter Ustinov anyway. You're there just talk about Peter Ustinov. I love a bit of the old Oost.
Is he the best Poirot?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. All right. Don't all right in about David Suchet.
I know.
He's great.
Suchet.
But who's better? Peter Ustinov.
Yeah. But 100%. Right. So Hiram is voiced by Alan Young, who's voiced characters in DuckTales the movie, and Tom Thumb. Tober is voiced by Frank Welker, who's done pretty much all the Transformers movies.
The guy playing Mr. Flaversham, the inventor, knew his voice straight away. I was like, Scrooge McDuck. You are Scrooge McDuck. It's Scrooge McDuck.
Is that,
you know?
Is it?
Yeah. From
DuckTales. Woo!
Yeah. Knew his voice straight away, and all the rest are sort of like.
And again, like Sherlock is voiced by Basil Rathbone, and it was his last film that he did.
Yeah.
Again, at the time, he was well known for playing Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, exactly. I would, with the sole exception of Vincent Price, these are all. This is not to do them down. These are all workaday. Voice actors, do you know what I mean? That's their bread and butter.
And to be fair, most of them have been in work for the last 20, 30 years at that point.
They are professional voice actors. That's what they do.
Yeah.
What kind of actor are they? They are voice actors.
Well,
obviously, except Vincent Price, who was in actual films.
Yeah.
But like nowadays, that's a bit different to nowadays. Nowadays, you will... It's a name, whereas this, and I sort of, in a way, I do sort of miss this era where it would be just voice actors. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
that is their bread and butter. They know how to voice and inflect for a cartoon.
And I mean, you know, there's plenty of people out there that are only voice actors, but just as well known as you know the name, but you don't know the face. Oppenheimer from He-Man, he did Skeletor. Exactly. He's a really famous one. He did Optimus Prime's voice.
And some actual actors, that's doing them down. So,
do I just remember talking about voice actors? Him who did Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy, died.
Yeah.
Batman the Animated Series, the best animated show. Great show. Anyway, go on, sorry, mate.
But even like big actors Mark Hamill, who were in Star Wars, has basically made most of his career as a voice actor.
Yeah, he has,
as well.
Joker.
The Joker.
In Batman the Animated Series. Link there, I like that.
But doing loads of stuff. It's like video games. A lot uncredited as well.
A lot of, actually, talking about video games, a lot of actors do voiceover for video games as well.
But I just thought that's a really interesting thing to point out, with the sole exception of Vincent Price, who's a big name actor. Yeah. So yeah, shall we give the listeners some fun facts?
Fun facts, come on.
Some fun facts. Yeah. John Musker and Ron Clements. I just want to spend just a moment speaking about them, because they were specifically brought on to basically tidy everything up and to make this film a success, because I cannot stress enough how much it was needed that this film be a success for Disney.
Time. I mean, before this, it was The Black Cauldron, which didn't do well.
Infamously, possibly the worst film that Disney had ever made. Right, I don't necessarily think in terms of quality that's the case. But
it's just
it's also a bit dull. It is a bit dull. I don't think it's the worst, but it bombed. It absolutely bombed. And unfortunately, though, Disney, even before the Black Cauldron was the nadir, the very bottom of it. But they'd had a series of losses. Like nowadays, it's a bit of a cult classic for people, but The Fox and the Hound didn't do well. And that was either the year before or the year before the Black Cauldron.
So then that would have been, 83?
Yeah. 82, something like that.
83, so there's a...
And that another big loss for Disney. And as well, stuff that, like, quite close to my heart, like, even in the 70s, Robin Hood didn't do terribly well. Robin Hood was sort of like a modest... Like, people liked it and critics liked it, but people just weren't turning out to go and watch it. So Disney was absolutely on its arse.
Thing is, when you forget, like, cinema in America in the 70s, it was very gritty. It was a very... the government were against the government shady, and it's like films like Dirty Harry and a few, all the President's Men, like conspiracy things.
People weren't in the mood to go, and so the 70s,
bit nihilistic cinema.
So the 70s and 80s were really, really dark time for
because
Disney.
You had the nihilistic, and then the 80s it was all SFX.
Yeah.
And this is a traditional hand-drawn animated film.
So basically, in the Disney company, there was sort of a bit of a coup. Disney was headed by a gentleman called Ron Miller, who was the son-in-law of Walt Disney.
Oh, okay.
He was the guy.
So he's in the family.
Yeah. And the Disney family are still involved in Disney to this day. You can't really get rid of them. They will. But there'd been a bit of a coup. The board essentially removed Ron Miller
because of its losses.
Because of its losses, and because he'd also been selling off shares to essentially people who do broker stuff, but not very ethically. If you know
a bit like Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, he'd been yeah.
Okay.
So they got rid of Ron Miller and they brought in a gentleman called Michael Eisner. Now, and he brought on
a very famous guy.
Yeah, very famous, and he brought on in turn to be the chairman, not just of animation, but of Disney's output
Walt
in
Disney
terms
Pictures.
of to Disney's output. He brought in a man called Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Another famous guy.
Very famous guy.
part of SKG, the DreamWorks. It's used to be called SKG DreamWorks, but it's just DreamWorks now.
Yeah.
But Spielberg is part of that.
Yeah. He would go on to find that when he would leave Disney under nefarious circumstances.
Always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah. And he would vow revenge upon Disney. That's what DreamWorks is. It's a revenge plot against Disney.
Yeah. And if you notice, the first 3 or 4 films from DreamWorks were very similar to what Disney...
This is...
Ants, A Bug's Life, there you go.
Eisner and Jeffrey Katzenberg essentially walked into Disney Animation Studios, which... Even the lot, he threw them off of the lot, famously in Burbank in California.
Yeah.
Threw them off the lot, saying, this place is losing money, get off. Right? And kicks
when we
them
say
out.
off the lot, a quick let you know, right? So when you've got a producer in Hollywood and you set up a studio, say like if I was a producer in Hollywood and then I was hired by Warner Bros., you literally work in an office where the studio is in Los Angeles, basically. That's where you run your production from.
Yeah. Literally, Michael Eisner came into Burbank Studios, where Disney Animation is, threw them off the lot, and essentially said, what's your next film coming out? And they were like, oh, it's Basil the Great Mouse Detective.
Sherlock Holmes thing.
Yeah, and he was like, fine, I like it. How much is it costing? 20 million. Make it 14. Oh, right, okay, we'll probably have to cut some things. Well, crack on with that then. Oh, and by the way, you've got to have it out by summer 1986. It was scheduled to be released, this film, Christmas 1987. He literally said, you have 1 year. So he started in 1984, came in early 1985 and said, you've 1 year. You have 1 year. This is your last chance, Saloon.
Now, knowing that, there is moments where it's a little bit rough.
Yeah.
The last section of the film where we'll get onto that, but where it all kicks off in Big Ben. That is a jump for me, clear, because I've got the version I watched was a Blu-ray surround sound, pristine print, and you can tell that jump in the last 7 or 8 minutes of that film.
Michael Eisner cut it to 10 million from 26 down to 10. Jeffrey Katzenberg put him back up to 14.
Well, then it's only a third of the film it was meant to be, then, isn't it?
And said you have 1 year. It's to be out summer 1986. And he essentially said that to Ron Disney, who was head of Disney Animation at the time. Get directors who can figure out a story.
Hence why
there's so many of them. And the key ones are, of course, John Musker and Ron Clements.
Yeah.
And they were essentially brought on to make these fixes. Steady the ship. Make these fixes. These necessary fixes. And I just think that's so interesting that essentially this was your last chance, Saloon. If this film would have failed, Little Mermaid wouldn't have happened. Aladdin wouldn't have happened. Lion King wouldn't have happened. Yeah. All of it hinges around this film. And I just think that's absolutely fascinating.
For a film that really isn't one... I think it was going to... I think, if anything, some certain people would... Oh, I've never even heard of that.
No, I know.
Because I'd never watched it before. I hadn't seen it before.
Well, this was one of my favourites when I was a kid.
I knew of it, never watched it.
It was one of my favourites when I was a kid. Really liked this film. Got me into Sherlock Holmes and stuff. Like, I read Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes after this film. Like, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's a bit of context, guys. And context is key. That this was so very, very absolutely last chance for Disney Studios. Because Michael Eisner would have shut it. And the man was ruthless as well. He would have shut Disney Animation as well. And can you imagine that world? That is such a... It's hard for us to get our head round nowadays.
Even to think of a film like this, that it's not that the film itself was important. It was the film that this particular group of people got together and decided... We have to make money.
It has to be a success.
And then what happens then is, like Disney fucking always do, they go, these know what they're doing, they can, how much money do you want for the next thing?
To be fair, they would go on to do absolutely great things.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was put a good one in the bag.
Yeah.
And we'll discuss whether they put a good one in the bag. But
Yes.
that's what they had to do. And the money's there. The money is there in terms of what they made. So Disney went, fine.
There you go.
There you go, fine. But yeah, so that's your context. Some other fun facts. One of the animators is a bloke called Ron Minkoff, who would go on again to direct The Lion King, be one of the directors on The Lion King. The clock tower scene.
First Disney film to use CG.
First CG, yeah. The clock tower scene. You've stole my thunder there. But it was also inspired by a Miyazaki film as well.
Yeah. So Miyazaki, he's a very famous Japanese director who does and it's Studio Ghibli basically.
You'll have heard of some of them. Princess Mononoke.
Like Spirited Away is a big
Howl's
one.
Moving Castle,
which is my favourite.
Oh, is that your favourite?
It is, yeah.
I've always had a soft spot for Princess Mononoke, actually. Grown-up Pocahontas.
Yeah. Howl's Moving Castle, it's a Welsh book. It's booked by a woman, a female writer.
It was the last film to feature work from a fella called Eric Larson as an animator. It was one of the 9 old men who'd essentially been one of the first Disney. He'd worked on nearly every Disney film. From Snow White,
like
and
he's an original employee, isn't he?
By now, we were just here to consult, but I just think that's a nice little fact.
I did read that.
That's his last thing. This is my absolute favourite fact. Disney walked into a board meeting, like a creative meeting with all of them, and he had his own little ideas. He wanted, the song "Let Me Be Good to You." They like the song that the woman
Cabaret,
the cabaret
scene.
He wanted Madonna to sing that. A different thing now. It's a different thing. He wanted Madonna to sing that, and everyone was like, "Thanks, Michael." All right. We'll put that in our maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
We'll see. We all know what "we'll see" means.
And then the best one, he wanted to voice Basil and also to sing a song. Michael Jackson. Apparently, at this meeting, there was stunned silence. Silence!
He's lost his mind.
Silence! Everyone was like, are you joking? Can you imagine? Quickly, Dawson! Quickly! We gotta save the little girl! Olivia!
Save the children!
Oh, no. Apparently there was such stunned silence. Everyone was like... And Michael Eisner went, well, if you don't like it, then we'll not do that. And everyone was like, we don't like it, and we're not doing that.
Yeah, good job you said that.
Yeah, apparently dropped it straight away. And I just love that fact. Like,
interesting.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Michael fucking Jackson. I don't think, Michael. Sorry. But, yeah, so there are a few facts for you guys. I think you can tell from this, it's very a sort of, yes, a last chance, but it's people who will go on to be very big in Disney in future. Even down to just random animator guy 10 years later would be making The Lion King.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
it is significant in the whole Disney story.
Yeah.
Again, not the film itself, but that moment in time.
Yeah. Yeah, which is exactly why I wanted to talk about this film as well.
You've been wanting to talk about it for a while.
Yeah, because it is so significant of what it... We'll talk about it more when we talk about legacy, but as in terms of a legacy, I think that's there. So, yeah.
It is. Yeah. It just is. Facts.
So, yeah.
So, come on then, let's...
What are your thoughts? Thoughts and feelings.
Right, but do you want me to go first? Because, obviously, it's the first time I ever watched it. I thought it was an alright little film, actually. Yeah. Dead breezer. Few things.
Whops along at a pace.
Do you know what I liked about it? The first kick-off for me? I like a pre-title.
Oh, pre-title.
So the pre-title basically sets up the mystery where you see this little girl and her dad in a shop, and he's a toy maker.
Oh, I like framing device.
Yeah. And literally you just
like
see shadows, and you're like, oh. And then she goes into a room, comes out, and Dad's gone. Dad's gone, and she can only see shadows, and Dad's there, and now he's not. And then bang titles. Yeah. So straight away I'm like pre-titles.
Do you know what else I like? That fanfare for the like Basil's theme. Do 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 do.
So I'll tell you what, okay, well, I'll move on quickly just to say the score is fucking great.
It's a really good
little
score, isn't
great. It was proper. It's very much a part of the film and not, it's in, again, the mix I listen to I've got a proper home theatre at home. And
just a humble brag there.
So, yeah, well, I thought I'd get that in. It doesn't do much in the surrounds, but wow, does it make use of...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean,
do you mean the songs that they sing as well?
No, even the score by Mancina.
Yeah.
Really good. And I thought it was almost like a character. It's that powerful. I really enjoyed it. And I actually wrote, the score feels like a character in its own right. It's very much a big part of why I thought it's a good film. Do you know what I mean?
I really fully agree. That opening scene, do 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 do, and I'm like, it's an adventure.
Yeah,
what a good little fanfare for an adventure, as well.
Again, I wouldn't know. For me, going into it, I know what Vincent Price sounds like. But I wouldn't have guessed that was him because it's just there, but not enough.
I'm surprised.
I was really listening. And I was like, could I tell if I didn't know it was him? And I was like, my brain.
Can I just what I want to say because I've put Vincent Price as something that I really liked.
Yeah, 100%.
I really like his character. Chewing the scenery, but not the scenery. He must have been chewing up the fucking studio.
Oh yeah,
where he would do.
They're like, that's good, and he's like, no, let me do it again. Let me do it again.
Apparently, he loved it. He loved doing it, and you can absolutely tell. Basil, I love his Rattigan's. His way going about it, you can tell he's keeping it together, but he's only just keeping his fury together.
Really, really, I'm glad that you've just segued into that because I think Ratty, I'll call him Ratty, he's called Rattigan, but I wrote Ratty down, right? And he hates being called a rat, by the way.
He does.
It's his worst thing. If you really think about it, again, right, so to me, there's a couple of moments in this film where he shows that how... Basically, the word I wrote is sadistic.
Yeah, it's sadistic. Madman.
He is, right. So the first instance of being sadistic as a character and showing that is Killer Cat when he rings the bell. The guy's pissed and he calls him a rat. When he's like, one of his henchmen gets pissed and he calls him a rat. And he's like, ding-a-ling-a-ling. And everyone's like, and you're like, oh, that means something bad. And then you see this fucking cat and the cat basically fucking eats him.
Yeah.
So.
No, I know, I get it. Yeah.
And the next thing incident where again, not getting ahead of myself, but where they find his lair when he leads them into a trap.
Yeah.
And he's got like some kind of James Bond villain fucking setup instead of just keep shooting him. Elaborate
setup.
And again, it's like, he leaves. He's like, I'm going to come back and I'll have a picture of you dead. So he sets up a camera. I'm like, sadistic.
I know, yeah. Really sadistic. Although I love that song that plays on the... Vincent Price singing goodbye so soon.
But again, I like that character's a good character. It's hinting at the sadism from him, and he does. You see that he's on edge.
He's on edge. He's just keeping it together. My favourite scene's when he feeds to his cat his henchman. I love it. It's almost like he's got really mad, but then he's like, "Oh, I'm going to kill you now," but I've regained my composure, and he was like, "My dear Bartholomew,
but
you have angered me now."
Yeah, where it's not the point of him, the crescendo of him being his angriest, but it's like, now I'm calm, now I know.
Yeah, you're actually going to die, and this is one thing for a Disney film. More than willing to be a little bit dark, in terms of.
I agree. Right, I've seen that. I agree.
Right, they will. That mouse is getting eaten by a cat. It's dead. It is dead.
It makes it quite clear.
Makes it quite clear. That cat at the end, the very same cat, jumps into a load of dogs.
Yeah.
And he gets ripped apart. That cat's dead. It's got eaten by a bunch of...
What goes around comes around, Mark.
Yeah. You know, Rattigan at the end quite clearly dies as well. Oh, and they'll use what is a little bit scary imagery, like almost Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde for Rattigan,
yeah.
Because like in
His
the end,
his eyes bulge.
yeah, he literally morphs into this monstrous rat thing with claws to attack Basil
when they're on
when they're on Big Ben. Yeah.
He's like
really good scene that, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it must have had about 9 million of the 10 million fucking budget. That scene.
That is the like I say, you know, the quality for me. There was a clear uptick in visual quality and animation. That last section. So maybe they're like, well, we're in the CG and we've got to match our hand-drawnness.
Yeah, and really well for that last scene in that clock tower, like really
the cogs and the camera, the movement of the camera, and
because as well, it's not just what's visually on screen for that clock tower thing. The tension is building the whole time.
True tension.
Proper tension. He's actually chasing them. And when they get away, Basil grabs that chain and just saves Olivia in time, you can see Rattigan get mad, and he gets so mad he literally rips himself free from where he's been.
He sees Kate
and he becomes almost monstrous. He becomes much more animalistic, and I'm like, I really like that. That is a great piece of animation.
The last sequence is it is good. It is good.
Yeah. Tension building constantly, and I like that.
Another one of the scenes that I really enjoyed is when Dawson, when they go and they find on their little fucking hunt the fidget, who's the back character with the peg leg. He leaves a note of what he has to do, and they find this note and he does his fucking Sherlock Holmes thing, and they find that it leads to this bar on the bank of the Thames. So they go in there and it's like a proper dive bar. They're dressed as fucking pirates, as if they've just come off the bar.
I know.
Right, and then not only that, they walk in, right, and for one I went, there's an octopus on stage juggling. And I went, right, I'm accepting that ridiculousness because so far we've only seen rodents. And now we're seeing fucking sea creatures. And not only that, they have another turn on there. And I can't remember what animals it was. And then they get fucking booed. And everyone's smoking. And then next, it's like, literally, the scene reminded me of Liza Minnelli and Cabaret.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
That's why it is.
With the music.
It's literally supposed to be like that of Liza Minnelli. Could you imagine if they'd have had Madonna do it? Like,
no.
Jesus wept.
No, but when he gets pissed up.
He does get
People
pissed
smoke
up.
and get pissed up in this film.
You can tell it was the 80s. Don't give a shit about the smoke.
Everyone smokes.
Rained in smoke. Basil all the time.
Pipe on his mouth.
Puffing away on his pipe. But yeah. I'd just like to quickly point out as well, I do really like Basil. He's a good voice actor.
Right, so again, the really good voice actor, and another one of my points, sorry mate, I'll let me get my shit out of the way and we'll move on to yours, right? So, right, for me, Basil, that character and that voice, I think, for one, a point that I was going to get onto quickly, I think this could easily be adapted into a live action film.
Yeah,
changing the little thing, but literally it could be. I think the script is that good. Yeah, in terms of it, right, all right. I seen it and I was watching it and I was like, this could be live action. And in live action version, I've put for that kind of eccentric character, Roddy McDowall or back in the day, David Niven. You know,
with David Niven,
because when he goes into the bar, he's got the little tats, and I'm like, David Niven.
Yeah, I love your disguise. He rips it off.
Reminds me of David Niven, but when I think we what we should have got at some point in the history of film, Roddy McDowall version of Sherlock Holmes, because he can do that strange, eccentric British.
Yeah. I really like Basil as well. Strange, eccentric.
Plus, it plays on the fact that him and Ratty have obviously got history.
Yeah, they've been doing this for a good long while.
It really kind of makes a point to go, this is, and he's like, it's fucking him again into it. I like that as well.
Yeah.
Like hinting at a bigger thing.
Yeah, this is it's a proper caper between the two. And I really like that. Good chemistry as well, him and Rattigan as well. Even for the two
all the
brief scenes
characters,
of all the characters, yeah. And I'm impressed by that because it doesn't always come across in an animated film.
No,
obvious acting chemistry. I can't believe I'm talking about animated rats but talking about acting chemistry, but it's not there, Chris.
It's not there. No, 100%. I agree. Again, this is what happens when you get voice actors.
That's exactly what they can do.
They can portray that with just the voice,
with just their voice, and leave the rest to the animators. Yeah. And they do a really good job at this.
100%.
Yeah, I fully agree.
You can like you say, I agree with the chemistry in the cast.
Yeah.
So what again? You've been a fan since you was knee high to a grasshopper.
I think we've basically covered everything that I pretty much like. I do quite like in its way its fast pacedness. Although, I used to when I was younger. I feel like now that I know the backstory,
because you don't notice it then.
You don't notice it. We're just
you don't know
someone taught on for an hour.
Let's not talk about run times. Let's move on.
But I don't think it hurts the film, but I do think now, one, you won't get away with it being this short.
No.
But also,
I'm sure for also now release, it needs to be a minimum runtime on a film.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be in a theatre nowadays.
Yeah,
they won't have any of that.
Disney Plus.
Yeah, but at the time I really liked it. Nowadays I can see the stuff missing because one thing that I have put as a negative, it's way too short. It feels like there was a lot cut, and so therefore there's very little time spent on any character development.
It's like a mini adventure.
Yeah, the characters are already pre-formed. It's one of those sort of things, which I think is fine. I don't think it hurts the film at all. Yeah. But it's just like, it's a mouse, it's Sherlock Holmes. What does he do? Sherlock Holmes things.
Solves mysteries.
Like, do you know what I mean? It solves mysteries. It's not hard for your audience to get your head around, but I just feel like it is missing some kind of character development.
Yeah, it is.
Now.
It is.
And that's clearly because what happened behind the scenes. That is what the reason is.
It is what it is, yeah.
Like I say, when
kept cutting and cutting.
If you're watching this film with your family, that will not put your kid in front of this for an hour and they'll have a nice hour.
Yeah,
you know. But I do think that I just want to briefly. There is one particular voice that just gets on my nerves, and it's Olivia's.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
the worst Scottish accent in the world.
Worst Scottish accent I've ever heard.
First thing I put, excuse me, my bad notes. Olivia has the worst Scottish accent ever.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. It's not. I mean, it's a child as well. It is a literal child.
Don't give a fuck.
But so. But could we have not got an actual? If you're worried about a child actor doing a Scottish accent, could we have not maybe got a Scottish child?
100%.
Like, do you know what I mean? That,
doesn't make sense.
Because that kid, I don't know that. Daddy.
Yeah,
where are you from?
It's like every word in a sentence she says he's Scottish.
Her father's got a good Scottish accent, mostly because he's Scottish. Like, he's literally his own voice. But Olivia,
bad.
Oh no,
bad.
No. I don't think it hurts the film, but when you're dealing with the rest of it, which is really good voice work, it stands out.
So talking about the point of you think it's missing a scene or two, I think because, you know, I'm like about musicals and whatnot, you know, it's not really my thing, but I think it's missing a third musical number. And I think the musical number...
got 3, so a 4th.
Yeah. I think the one that's missing a scene, like for some reason, I don't know why I think this, but some sort of musical number in the palace.
Oh yeah, I could see another.
And I thought it might be another ratty thing where he's like, I have power and but it's not. It's like, here's a robot and I'm going to take over, and then it doesn't, and he's gives it the beans, and then it all goes to shit in like in the
It
space of 5 minutes.
It literally, Basil turns up, saves the day, comes out and calls him a sewer rat.
He don't like that.
Apparently, that's the scene of the guy who directed Disney animated. The guy who directed Disney, the guy who directed Lion King.
Yeah, right.
He
I knew what you meant,
that
but to the listeners,
he animated that scene.
And I think that from that scene, that his Ratty's plan's foiled, and then the blimp/balloon chase over London, and then the Big Ben standoff. Really good. Like, all right, all right, it's coming to an end now.
I think they wanted to go. They just got the plan bang out of the way.
Yeah,
yeah. Right. There's a plan. There's a plan.
Didn't work to the end.
Didn't work. Now here's your chase.
Yeah.
Like
bit of a weak one that in the palace and his idea.
It is a bit. Yeah. It's yeah.
But then the chase.
They make up for it. They make up for it.
They do. They definitely do.
But yeah, I think because we basically covered, I think, pretty much what I really, really like about it in his discussion. But yeah, I think that's probably my biggest bugbear about it, that it's lacking a few scenes.
Again, it feels like it could have been a bigger mystery.
I feel like this would have been one of... If Michael Eisner had allowed it, maybe not its whole original budget, maybe just put it up to like 17, 18 or something like that. Gave it just a bit more, or maybe just giving it...
Another 10%?
Yeah, and maybe just giving it its full amount of time that it was allotted. We could have had a really good animated film on his hands. It could have been the Disney Renaissance 7 or 8 years earlier than actually happened. It could have been a really good film. I think what holds this film back is Michael Eisner just going, no.
Yeah.
The axe has come down. Make it work, and you've got a year.
And that's your money, and that's it.
Yeah, that's your money. That's it. And
it works or it doesn't.
And that's what I think the weakness of the film is.
Plus, as well, again, going back to the point I made about the last section of the film visually having a jump in quality for me, I did find some of the animation style a bit thick. Maybe that was down to time, compared to some of the stuff around the same time as this. It was a bit soft in places. Especially in Ratty's cape, because like I say, the print I want is immaculate. Like when he's in his lair and he's like pulling him close to him, and like, the camera's just him and the other character, you can really see like it's not all one black. You can see where it's where it's at. I'm sure they used proper paint on acetate, didn't they? So it was right, it's black. Right, that next one's black, and they had probably obviously a stack of them they needed to get through, but you can really tell. And I guess in the early scenes of the film, you can really tell the softness of the animation and the thickness of the character lines. 100% you can, yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably.
But again, that all adds in. It adds up to what was going on with the production.
Yeah,
and it was
exactly.
rushed, but it was like, bang, we need to get it done.
And I think that's probably another thing that held the film back, because apparently 1986, big year for mouse-related films, because Don Bluth's film came out later that year, An American Tail,
which is another side of the story. Isn't it?
Gets on my nerves. American Tail. I don't know whether you've ever seen it.
It's a bit schmaltzy. And do you know what it is? It's like another immigrant coming to America.
All right, Don. Yeah. Don. I have a lot of time for Don.
What's he called? What's he called?
Feifel. It gets on my nerves, does the American Tail. There's two of them. There's American Tail and American Tail. Feifel goes west.
Yeah.
And it's just like
into the west, into like
of the US,
like Native Americans and stuff.
Like
because it's set in that time in the Wild West. Yeah,
Wild West.
Wicked Wild West.
There's a reference there, guys. Write in if you got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this got beat out quite significantly by An American Tail. It did. But again, it made to go. I don't know, because I think this is a better film than American Tail. But it's also about an hour shorter than American Tail.
Do you know what? I've not seen it for years, but I do know I have seen it.
An American Tail's like a standard animated film for the 90 minutes, you know what I mean? Whereas this is... It's an hour, realistically. Taking away for credits, it's an hour, is this film.
70 minutes it is, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Literally.
Like... It's nothing. 60. I think that's the thing that's held it back, because I think this is probably a better film. It's more fun. It's more enjoyable. The acting's better. So
the acting's really good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I've never seen it before.
This is one of those films where I think I really enjoy it. It's one of my favourite films when I were a kid, but it's just looking back at it now, it's a bit of a shame. I think it's a bit of a shame.
Again, it's like the sum of the parts and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
there's other things going on there, and that was kind of against it.
So yeah, I mean,
good idea though.
Why don't we wrap up then? So what are you thinking? What are your final thoughts on this?
Well, again, legacy, because of where it stands in the whole Disney story, is a really interesting thing. I enjoyed it. Never seen it before. I obviously knew of it, and I enjoyed it. I mean, if it was just to put a number on it, 7. It was fine. Yeah, I've seen a lot worse, and do think that it could have been a better film, like you do, and I think it could. So I thought it was all right. Yeah, it was fine. Again, I really enjoyed that last little bit, like you're saying, with the actual tension and the chase over London. And then him transforming, like he's become more than a villain.
Quite a lot of it is really well written, I think. The dialogue's actually really good and really snappy.
Again, it's based on Sherlock Holmes, and it lives close to that spirit.
Yeah.
And again, I all the way through it, and even the end, I thought you could definitely translate this with a bit tweaking here and there into a live action film.
Yeah.
You could do it. Again, it's just a version of a Sherlock Holmes story.
Yeah, this is very much. If ever you bought a kid's version of Sherlock Holmes, like book for your kids, they could tell this story, and it'd be a nice, easy.
And I do think it probably borrows things from like when they fall off.
Yeah.
Him and it's like him and Moriarty. Like there's a famous story where they die together.
Yeah.
And he comes up like in this like gyrocopter thing. And I was like, hey, he's not dead. Well, he wasn't going to be dead anyway, but that's not the point.
But I feel very similar about it. Like I say, I've got a big place in my heart for The Great Mouse Detective. I think it's a really solid little kids film, is this,
because of the performances
really strong, and as particularly the performance of Basil, what is it, Barry Ingham, and of course Vincent Price, the legend that is Vincent Price.
And Dawson. Apart from Olivia, sort of like Olivia, fuck off.
But it's generally a problem with child actors, I think, across the board, isn't it, really? Yeah. But, I think that you could, as a parent, if there are any parents listening, you could stick your kid in front of this for an hour, and they'll really enjoy it, and you'll find yourself watching it. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of one of those films like, we'll put that on for kids, but then you as the grown-ups, like, do you know, I actually really enjoyed that. It's alright.
Don't admit it, but it was.
Yeah. Will that get on my nerves after the 807th watching? Probably, but we've probably got a few more watches before I literally want to tear it out of the wall.
And I think maybe that's where the runtime comes in, because it's bam, 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 right, there you go.
And that's one thing that I think it's positive about it. But I think I've just got to quickly talk about the legacy. I mean, we have talked about it.
But what would you... Right, so, quick one. Let me ask you this. What would then Mark think of it, and what does now Mark think of it?
Well, then Mark, I'd have given it like a 9 out of 10. I absolutely adored this film. I loved it. Hammered the video. So much so that the actual video that I got chewed up, and we had to run to Steyny Market. Well, we didn't run. We went the next Sunday. But
did you have a shit VHS? Because that's not the first one it chewed up.
Yeah, I know. And had to buy another one. Because I were having this on video. It's
I'm having it.
I'm having it. What I would give it now would be a 7. I think it's solid little.
It's
kids
solid
film.
7 all
solid
day.
little
All
kids
day.
film. Enjoyable.
For the performances, I would have given it a meh.
Yeah.
But the performances of the cast
well
were good.
acted.
Yeah.
And I have to say as well, it deserves that 7 as well for what it spawned off. Cannot be understated that this saved Disney animation. There wouldn't have been any of it. You Love the Lion King wouldn't have existed.
Guys, if you
Basil
don't know
the
anything about the history of Disney and you just think
Yeah.
it's like this big old powerful company, there was times in its past when it was on shaky fucking ground.
Yeah,
on its
and
arse.
this is one of those. And if it wasn't for this little adventure, an hour's little adventure with Basil and Dawson and Rattigan, you wouldn't have no Lion King, you wouldn't have the Little Mermaid, you wouldn't have Aladdin, you wouldn't have Hercules.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, and the directors would go on to direct these things. And it's almost like this film gave Disney their confidence back. They started... Each film that they brought out after this, Oliver and Company, again, not a great film, but it were a step up again. Do you know what I mean?
Isn't that about cats?
It's about dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Well, it's the story of Oliver, but with dogs and cats.
Is he a dog or a cat?
Oliver's a cat, and the rest of the cast are dogs.
Carry on.
But, yeah. So each film was sort of like...
Just
we're
make
getting
money,
there
just
until
making money.
1989 when John Musker and Ron Clements bring out The Little Mermaid, and that starts it off. And you can see the seeds of it, like your big villain song. Rattigan has this big villain song.
Yeah.
They weren't very prevalent beforehand. But now, if you watch a Disney film, particularly of that Disney Renaissance era that everyone talks about, there's always like a big villain song, and they learned lessons from this, and like I say, gave Disney their confidence back. So I'm going to give it a 7.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah, and Money in the Bank, which is more than can be said for what Disney animation had before that.
Yeah.
They had no money, less than money, debted. So I think just for its legacy alone, this film has almost earned its place in film history. Just to be like...
It was a difficult birth.
But
it survived.
It survived, and you've given kids a legacy to go with. And I think maybe that speaks more to just the quality of the thing that they put out. It's not the greatest thing, but it endeared to everyone who watched it in a small way. So I think it's a well earned 7.
100%
out of 10.
Yeah, so we agree again.
Yeah. We're going to have to find more contentious films because, I think we've only disagreed about 2. So we're going to have to we need a round, Chris. We need a round.
I know, yeah. What do you think this does? Oh, excuse me. What do you think this does?
Yeah.
So, Mark, that was Basil, the Great Mouse Detective on the Vault of Cult.
It is. So, join us next time. We'll have many more things to talk about.
We've got loads of things, We've got plenty more shows coming up.
Yeah, we'll be happy to talk about that. Chew your ear off about that.
So come back, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. Again, get us on social medias, vaultofcult@gmail.com and at the Vault of Cult on Instagram. So, Mark, I'm all done, and that's it for me for another episode.
And me. Well, see you later, guys.
Take care.
In a bit.
See you soon.
Bye.